Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining Man-O-Rama for our Thanksgiving special. We will begin momentarily, so hold on to your butts. All right, welcome. Let's start filling up, and we shall get going, Mr. Rancor.
Welcome to episode 3 of Man-O-Rama. How you guys doing? It's good to see everyone in the chat. I know some of the guys are going to be jumping in soon. So this is our Thanksgiving special, and we are going to talk about some fun stuff. And here is Talcum. He is joining us. If you can hear us, if his mic is on, how are you doing, Talcum?
I think my mic is on. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Man-O-Rama, episode 3.
Yes. And
Hello,
JRC
chat.
and Jeff should be coming in soon. If they hit the live show, then they can hop in and people would know who they are. But let's get into it. So right now we're going to talk about what we're thankful for. Actually, let me do something better. Let's go around the table and see how everyone is doing. So talk about what we're thankful for. Actually, let me do something better.
Hey, JRC, you're kind of echoing a bit there. You got it playing in the background.
Hang on a sec.
So we have a new person on the panel, Lost Wanderer, Jeff. How are you? Introduce yourself to everyone.
Well, thank you, Steve. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Jeff. Also go by the Lost Wanderer. I'm mainly a podcaster on a radio network. So this YouTube is kind of new to me. So thank you for letting me join in.
Anytime. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's get into it. We're going to talk about what we're thankful for because Thanksgiving is next week, and I didn't want to really have a episode during Thanksgiving because I didn't think anyone would end up watching, and it would just feel like a bunch of old guys playing chess in the park where no one's going to pay attention and watch. So JRC, give us something, a few things, whatever you want to say, what you're thankful for this year from your life.
Well, hopefully I heard that I might have some background noise. Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. I just had to adjust everything. Well, what am I thankful for? Well, obviously, I'm thankful for a loving God that loves me, who's given me my family, who's given me my sons, and I'm just thankful also to be here. I'm actually not supposed to be here, but I made it, so I'm very thankful for that.
Yes. And Jeff, what are you thankful for?
I am thankful for some of the amazing people I've met, especially over on Twitter and the internet in general over the last year. And honestly, always thankful for my young teenage son who makes life interesting in so many different ways.
And Talcum, what are you thankful for?
Well, I'm thankful that I woke up today and I finally realized my true self and realized that I'm a transgender, non-binary person of color. And I just I put up my application in today. Just decided whether I'm going to move to Palm Springs, California, or San Francisco, California, and put in my application for non-binary universal income. So I could help, with the twig and berry situation, so I could feel my more real self. Um, so I'm grateful for that. I'm incredibly grateful to the state of California for providing wages and income for transgender people. I think that's a great thing. It should be very sustainable long term. I'm thankful for that. And I'm also thankful for my family and friends and pets and so forth. I used to be thankful for my constitutional rights, and then I realized I live in California the last couple of years, so I don't recall what those used to feel like anymore at this point. Oh, I just realized I got to step aside for a moment. I don't have a mask on, and that's been mandated again in California. Just give me one moment, guys. Let me go find a mask. I don't want to get anybody sick.
No, sorry.
What are you thankful for?
Oh, where to begin? Let's be honest, there's probably more than people think in terms of what to be thankful for, but having seen so many friends in different situations, family friends in different situations, I gotta be honest, man, as someone that's not quite lucky in life, I gotta give a huge shout out to my own family for kind of putting up with that bad luck. But thankful for my family. I got cool friends. I got pretty awesome people to do a show with. And I finally want to do what I want to do, which is be a part of a show and run a show. So I guess tonight life is pretty good.
Nice. I would, for me, it's been a rough year this year, and I'm very thankful with having a job, working with Gary Ambrosia. If you guys know him from Pop Culture Breakdown and from this show, and this show as well, I'm very thankful to have a place that guys can talk about guy things and just feel normal and feel like accepted into things. And my family, my wife, I'm thankful for her putting up with my shenanigans and just yeah, I'm just thankful for those things. Nothing grand or anything, just the small things. So, um let's now that we got that over with, let's get into our favorite segment of the day. And that is the Don't Be That Guy tweets. So, these are going to be all randomized, and we are all going to go. I'm going to read them off, and we're all going to give our thoughts on these tweets and see how the dice rolls. So, if we can get.
Sorry, guys, just having a little technical difficulties. I guess my neighbor. I'm in California. My neighbor, he's got a new Tesla and was decided to charge his car at the same time I was trying to use electricity at my house. So the lights went out.
Yeah,
Give
you're
me one
boned.
moment. Oh, there they go. They're getting back on. And I just wanted to show you guys the new state issued mask in California. These are the N96 masks that you wear. You know, if you want to go get your drive-through in Starbucks or, you know, send your preschooler to school. So they're pretty comfortable. You know, they're, you know, you can wear them in any type of weather. Sometimes the mask, you know, the fogs up a little bit, but it's fine. It's fine. It's very, very durable, reusable, you know. So I just want to let you guys know that. And then
Looks like a
these are
chlorine
free.
mask.
These are
That's
provided.
one hell of a
as part
mask,
of-
dude.
These are provided free of charge, you know, for all transgender people of color that are non-binary, as part of your universal basic income. So, you know, it kind of when you get the gender reassignment surgery, there could be some unpleasant odors, and that's also this mask secondary as a gas mask as well, as well. You know, besides, you know, deadly odors, you know, any pathogens,
Sorry.
other stuff like that, it can do that. I mean, when you have a sweaty meat pocket and it's healing, you know, you can get some random smell. So, okay, I just wanted to say I'm thankful for this mask. I'm thankful to have this. And if you guys want to know where to get it, feel free to DM me. I'm happy to share. So I'm sorry about that, guys. Go ahead.
Is that made by
move
like
forward.
Eve?
You know what?
to the next
That's the show. That's the show. You know that's the
Made
show.
it. I actually, so here, the next time Gary's on this show, he, when I worked at a coffee shop when COVID happened, we'll get into the tweets and let Goat get ready for that. But he came in one time with an actual gas mask in the coffee shop. Everybody in line just separated. It was like Moses parted the Red Sea. It was the funniest thing ever. It worked. People were like, "What's going on?" I'm dying laughing in the back. I think it's the funniest thing I've ever saw. I'm like, "Oh, we need more of this humor." So that is my Gary story with the mask. So
Gary, if you're there, is that true?
in the chat, Gary, if you're seeing this,
I need verification. I get.
Steve, I think it's such
yes,
an odd coincidence that you mentioned Moses parting the Red Sea, because that's exactly what I plan to do long term, so that I can feel like my true self.
yes.
Oh, hey, Tony. See you on the next break. We'll be looking for you, brother.
All right, so go. Let's get into the tweets, the fun side of things. Let's have some fun with this and see
Oh,
how
we're
the
gonna
dice
dive on
roll.
in, are we?
Oh yeah, we're gonna do it, man.
Let's do it.
All right.
Shut up
give
or
me
shut
one
up.
moment. Let me readjust that. That was not where it's supposed to be. And here we go.
All right, so
Hey, Gringo, is that solar-powered flashlight?
here's the tweet, and for safety reasons, I blocked out the
It's
names.
pronoun powered
Oh, copy that.
flashlight.
Yeah, all
But
right.
thank you for not judging. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime.
It's pronoun powered. So it's got 97 different settings and counting. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay.
Should I read off the
You're
first
gonna
one?
get through this. Oh man,
Sorry.
I'm looking at YouTube video, and then I can't see Talcum's thing. So I had no idea, guys, what you guys were talking about. So all I heard was like, "It's pronoun fueled." But here, let's do the first tweet.
I see
Why
it.
are men allowed to be gynecologists? And then another down below it says, "Why are men allowed?" Let's start there.
Wow.
Here's the problem with this. I get why she wrote it. Maybe she might have had a weird, creepy doctor who, for whatever reason. That's not the best career choice if you want to be a doctor. It's just like, that's my take of it. But why are men allowed? Let's start there. Because it's a job.
And it's a
Someone
dirty
has
job.
to do it.
Well, I mean, she could just say no and go somewhere else.
Yeah. What else do you guys think of this tweet? This is so. It's not what she said. It's what he said. I'm like, dude, stop simping.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
When I went to my female proctologist, I had no complaints.
Well, let's put something into perspective. As you guys know, I had surgery a little while ago down there because I'm an old man now, and it was performed by a female. So
When she did the surgery, did it feel like you were coming and going at the same time, or were you totally knocked out for the procedure with really good anesthesia?
I know we're on YouTube and everything like that, so I'll get this little inappropriate story out. But she did say I had good anatomy.
There you go.
So I said, and she said that while I was high on Valium too. So just to let you know.
That's good.
Yeah.
I've been praised once or twice for my above average intelligence below the waist, and I'm just grateful for that, because when I had my reassignment surgery, it seems like it's kind of reminds me of the scene from Close Encounters of the Third Time, where Richard Dreyfuss is slowly taking the potatoes and formating a mountain of the mounds of potatoes.
Wait, did she really say this means something?
So I'm hoping that with all the mountain I have below my waist and that extra skin, they can use all that to formulate a perfectly warm meat pocket, when I have my surgery. But go forward. I'm sorry.
Jeff, what do you think of this tweet? By the way, they get better.
This is so hilarious to me. Why are men allowed? Period. Well, because you wouldn't be here without us, you dumb twit. It always kills me when these betas say shit. Oh, I'm sorry, like that.
You can say shit.
It is. They have so much self-pity in themselves. Can you imagine walking around in their panties every day?
I wouldn't be comfortable.
I can't wait to walk around in panties myself.
Actually, I could. I mean, I was a little weakling back in middle school, so I could probably imagine that.
it's I don't know. Like it's whenever I see tweets like this, I always think one, she has 207,000 likes, 24.8 thousand retweets, and then 2.7 thousand comments. Buddy, she ain't gonna see your comment. I guarantee it. Once you hit a certain point, like even when I don't have that many followers on Twitter, but there's a lot of comments I miss. I overlook because I don't see it because I see a lot of likes and retweets and everything. Like I wake up and there's like 50 notifications. I don't have like it's really hard to catch every single one. So, but let's get to the next one.
All right. Wrapping it up for you. Give me one moment.
And while we're waiting for that, I just want to give Goat credit for the Man-O-Rama Thanksgiving turkey hanging deal. Like this whole setup is awesome, and it couldn't be done without him. So
Let me
I
reset
can't
Besides
see
that
that,
the-
for you
I
real
greatly
quick.
appreciate all of Goat's contributions to the production of the show. You guys have no idea. He's amazingly talented and helpful at this. So
Oh yeah.
I could
you
build
guys
a
should
computer,
be
but I can never make
following
it
him
run.
on Twitter and reach out to him if you see anything maybe that you would like work wise.
Oh, I appreciate it. Believe it or not, there's actually, even with the hardware I have, there's a lot of work that goes into this. Even with the button mashing and I'm fixing stuff live, it's a lot of work. So I do appreciate the feedback. So thank you very much.
So we're gonna get to this one. Yesterday, a girl stood me up because she got called into work. I almost puked myself laughing when I met her in the club. It was like, so this is where you work. Last night was effing perfect. Then this guy, dimwit, this ain't it, Chief. You don't know her situation or why she had to cancel. Guy with the Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's Assassin's Creed.
So this chick who I guess stood him up, she played the guy card. The whole I have work. Every guy I think has used some type of way to get out of a date. And this guy up here on the top, he got that. And it's another sign of simping is if you read the guy's tweet, it makes perfect sense of that she stood him up and was at a club. You know, that's okay. It's totally fine if you're like, hey, I'm not gonna tell this guy, so I'm just gonna say I'm working. And then you find out, oh, she's at a club, probably dancing and stuff. I don't think she's working there. I don't think so. I just think that guys who are trying to even simping for someone that a chick that's not there, that's the thing. It's like, dude, you're simping on nothing. Like you hit a new level. You
He's
hit
not going to
9,000
see this
simping.
response.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of this?
Well, at
Oh.
first when I'm reading this, I was thinking that maybe did she work at the club or is she just going to the club? But obviously it looks like that she was just there, just kind of ghosted him or something like that. But unfortunately she didn't ghost correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick
I
your
can't
places.
imagine the brain cells that were wasted on this response. It'd be one thing if he had like tagged her,
Yeah.
but she's not. Who the hell is he simping for? I
Rosie
don't.
O'Donnell.
Yeah, I cannot even fathom the thought process that occurred with this response.
It's one of those things where I get if you want to simp for a chick on Twitter, she's there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you don't. There's one thing I've noticed going through these tweets. It has been a joyride of trying to find these tweets. How do you know that account is of that person? Like,
Yeah,
for all
it's
I know
highly
is
likely
you're
they're a
simping
bot.
for a dude
Yeah,
Or a bot.
or a bot. But so let's get to the next tweet.
I just think like this guy could have handled it better, meeting her in the club, like more politely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the right thing to do is, if he stood her up and then he met her in the club is, when she was on stage, you should just have tipped her $1 and said, this is what you're worth, since this is how much it costs to see you naked.
I
And then,
love the comment in the
said,
chat
good day,
from
sir.
Andy Masterson. If you see
I
that,
just saw
Rancor.
it.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Yeah, I love the meme.
Andy, there's a chance. There's always a chance. So here, okay, this one. Oh man. So feel bad for the people who spend money on OnlyFans. I'll buy this guy a beer. He's spot on.
Yeah.
It's this nincompoop who says, "Why are you even opening your mouth? You trying to?" I have bad grammar. At least spell correctly. Trying to be a effing bitch to her and you succeeded. Don't hate on her because you're trash and could never get anyone remotely sexy like her to even look at you. Next time you want to talk, think about how dumb you sound and just shut the fuck up instead. Okay. Here's my problem with OnlyFans. Look, if someone wants to do OnlyFans, go for it. I don't care. That's what you want to do, go for it. But I do feel bad for people who dump money into it. I'm always saying, like, dude, just Google. You've just saved yourself $1. Like, but it's this kid down below. It's like, he's not trying to he's not trying to get the person's attention on OnlyFans or whatever. He's just making a good statement. He's proving a point. He could have said Twitch, and I would agree with him. It's this whole simping for something that you're not seeing. It's guys simping on other, like, attacking guys who are pointing out a statement of saying, "Hey, look, I feel bad for people who do this," and other people attacking them for their opinion. Like, I get, like, when he says you will never find anyone sexy, I get on Twitter, it's funny when they say you'll never get a woman if the way you're talking like this or this and that. And I'm already married. Like, okay. Like, what's your point? Like, I'm already married. I already have a woman. I don't need to worry about another woman. Big whoopie-doo. Like, I feel like that's their target. Like, I got you moment. It's the whole, I got you, bitch. It's like, nah, you didn't get him. But what else do you guys think about this? What are some critiques about Hat Boy down there?
I'm looking at this. I'm like going, okay, so, if that's really his profile pic and stuff, let's just call OnlyFans. Let's give OnlyFans an AKA, and also known as. Let's give them Simp Hub. How about that? I mean, that's just ultimately what it is.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. But when I look at something like this, it's just, man, he looks seriously like
He hasn't completed puberty yet.
Yeah. I was gonna say maybe he just jumped into 13, maybe, or something like that. And geez, when I was 13, of course, we didn't have internet yet. But the thing is, but when I look at that, I'm like going, I'm just thinking, okay, so is he trying to have some kind of righteous indignation for anybody, any kind of female that's looking at this, like this thread on Twitter and saying, oh, look at that guy, he's such a hero or something like that? And, it just, it's tacky, it's cheesy, and I can guarantee you that actual women who don't use OnlyFans, if you want to, that's your thing. But I'm just saying from experience, is that usually they don't go for guys like that, who are trying to defend. I'm gonna say literally women selling themselves online.
Yeah, or guys.
Or guys. Yeah.
He could be simping for a guy on OnlyFans. It's
and
Ethan Klein is probably on OnlyFans right now because he just got kicked off of Twitter or YouTube or whatever. I don't know, dude. God, yeah. Ethan
Maybe he's
Klein.
still on MySpace.
I'll sell you my. Oh, jeez, he probably is. He's probably like, I'll $5. I'll show you a picture of my big fat ass feet. All right, Ethan Klein. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not. I've never been to OnlyFans, but I've seen enough tweets from people and interactions with people to know that there's actually some business savvy females on that website. They will look at that person who's responding as easy money.
Mhm.
All they have to do is mention their name, bat their eyes, maybe show a little cleavage, and $50 every week will be handed over without a question.
Yeah.
It's like the field of dreams of yeah.
Well, Steve, do you remember that article I sent you on Twitter through the DM about the middle school teachers, husband and wife, who got
Dude, what
caught
the hell
doing
was
only?
that?
I have no idea, but apparently, well, anyway, their husband and wife teacher at a middle school who were fired for doing OnlyFans, and their students found out about it. And not only that, they did their videos in their classroom. I'm like, good God Almighty! I just this is what that's why I tell everybody. It's like, look, I agree. If you're going to do OnlyFans, that is your choice. You can do that, but man, you're kind of stepping into a fire trap almost.
It's yeah. Talka, what do you think of this tweet? I want to get your
Can you
opinion
pull
on
the
this.
tweet back up, please? Can we pull the tweet back up? It sickens me, the behavior of people that just think that everybody on the planet needs to be defended in the virtue signaling. It's just disgusting. When everything is racist, when everything is sexist, when everything is homophobic, when everything is anti-Semitic, and on and on and on, then nothing is. Then nothing is. And for people that grew up in a time where they faced real problems, because of their religion or color of their skin, it just disgusts me, these people that make problems up that don't actually exist because we live in a country that was so overwhelmingly successful up until recent times, where we kind of seem to fall off the peak quickly. But that's kind of a sign, when you have to make problems that don't exist, that are just figments of people's imaginations, that's a problem. There's a big warning sign. And when I see tweets like this, it's a sign of failed parenting, failed mentoring from a strong male in whoever this person's life, assuming this isn't a bot. It's just, unless you're in person somewhere and you see a female get grabbed by the hair or smacked in the face or this and that, like where there's a real present danger, in a sense, to a woman or a child or whoever it might be. It's like, what do you think, what business do you think you have jumping in, feeling the need to defend this person? And it's just, it actually saddens me when I see, like, when I remember going back to the 80s and 90s and seeing, teenage and college age men, how they were built physically, how they handled themselves. And then when I see this new generation where a lot of times you cross paths with them in, let's say, a retail store or a restaurant, and they don't know how to formulate a sentence. They don't know how to make change. Their social skills are anemic at best. And it looks like we're going to have a generation growing up of swiping right or swiping left in order to determine to date somebody, when it's like, imagine, I don't know the age range of everybody here on the panel, but just imagine, your dating age in high school, college years, and, you told women back then, hey, in 20 years, you're going to be able to meet perfect strangers on your phone and swipe left or right, whether you like them or not, and just invite them over to your house or meet them at their place without knowing anything about them. I mean, that would be crazy talk. That would be absolute crazy talk.
Yeah.
When I first started dating, it was at least the way I was brought up, it was like customary to, introduce yourself to the parents, ask, for their blessing to take the girl out or woman, and like especially say you're taking her to like a dance or prom or something like that, or anything like that, out of respect. And you go on a date, you bring the woman home, let's say 10 o'clock or whatever, is respectful to the parents, or maybe even earlier, just to show respect. And now it's like this culture has been cultivated where people are hooking up based on a blurb and a profile pic that they read on an app, and it's just it's very sad, and it's another aspect of instant gratification where people, we're seeing mass amounts of people having, becoming single parents. We're seeing the reproduction levels plummet. We're seeing the traditional family percentage of successful marriages and families plummet. And I don't really care what anybody says about that. That is not a healthy functioning society at all.
It never
No,
has
and
been.
I'll be honest, as a father to a teenager, this whole scenario, watching and tweets like this, make honestly scary for my son to be, what's he going to experience in the next 5, 10 years? It's just something that I cannot fathom based on like what you said. I mean, I'm 50 plus. It was it feels so much simpler now, having gone through what I went through and trying to date and get married and all that, to what I imagine my son having to go through. It 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 scares me with I'm dreading the stories he's going to tell me.
Mm. Jeff, to add on top of that, so I'm 41. I have a 3-year-old son and a 6-month-old son. And when my 3-year-old was born, my stepson, he's 20 years old now. He's a junior in college. The thing is, though, is when I can't remember if it was right after my 3-year-old was born that he literally came to my wife and I, and he said while he was holding my little boy when he was a baby, he literally looked at us and he said, "I worry for his generation." And he was still in high school, and he was still 18 at that time, and he said something that's so profound about an 18-year-old can recognize that he worries for my 3-year-old's generation at 18. And I mean, we do have a good school district out here. I'm out in Virginia, but at the same time, when somebody's like, when a young kid recognizes that and says he's worried his younger half brother, it's one thing that my wife and I are seriously trying to see if we can homeschool our sons.
Right.
I don't have any kids yet, so I have no idea how it is to be a dad, and to see how kids are being taught in public schools and everything. I feel like it's more the dad's duty to set standards in the house. I've always stood by the fact that um, if you have a mom and dad, then you have a higher chance, a success rate of succeeding in life a lot more. I didn't get that opportunity, but I had to learn through a lot of things. And just and I told my wife this a few years ago, and I said, look, I feel like homeschooling is going to be the perfect situation if we start having kids one day. And she wasn't all for it at the moment, and then it finally grew on her that she realized, like, maybe you're right about homeschooling. And because with dads, I think it's especially good dads who are very much, they want to be a part of their kids' lives. They value what goes on in their kids' lives, that they're willing to do a lot, that they want the best for their kids. I think any dad wants that, but it's the work that you put into it. And I can't speak on what it is to be a dad and everything, but I imagine it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of stress and worry of being a dad, and having, especially if they have daughters. Like, I told my wife, look, I just want sons. I just don't want to deal with daughters. Not that I don't want a daughter, I would love to, but I know how guys are when they're 13. I was 13 once. It's weird. It's this whole it's a lot of problems that mostly for me, it's I can deal with. If I have a son, he turns 13, I can handle that a lot better. If I have a daughter, it's like I don't know what to do. I'm hands off this one. I can't do anything about it because I don't know how to approach it because I'm not a woman. Unless I put on my driver's license as a woman.
I'm not
But-
going to assume your gender, Steve.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Well, I will tell you, I have been surprised. I live in probably the most liberal state in New England, and my son and I, our living room is our computer room. So I hear him playing games with his friends and his classmates. The one thing that always amazes me is how the language between the boys actually hasn't changed that much. They've learned kind of to hide it a little bit in Discord chats and Skype chats. And then when they're out in public, they speak a completely different language. So part of me is I kind of enjoy seeing that because it tells me nature is still the same. They've just learned to do caveats on how they speak in public. It's a shame they have to, but the fact I can still hear the conversations, and it's still kind of conversations I had 30 years ago. It gives me a little bit of hope that maybe not all is lost in this area.
Yeah.
I remember, at least growing up in high school and stuff, we would have code words for stuff when we were around our boomer parents, just because not necessarily we were getting in trouble or stuff in like serious trouble, but some tomfoolery or however you want to describe it, ding dong ditching or TPing a buddy's house or doing certain stuff like that, or, you know, um, during what was it, the 90s or something, there was, for a period, it was like taboo to listen to certain music. Oh, you can't listen to that. That's the devil's music, or that's inappropriate, or that's a gangster rap music. You can't listen to that.
If I could
It's-
just, when you're done, I'd like to kind of interject.
Go right ahead.
Okay. I just been sitting on this. So Dan Crane in the chat, who I know more than once has had some pretty good quotes. In fact, let me go ahead and hit enter on chat. He said, "A man who puts service above self, who puts sacrifice above self-interest, are characteristics that a real woman will bond with. These I can't even talk tonight, will make them feel safe and secure." I tend to agree with that because I just kind of know from experience, but I thought we should at least kind of take a moment to give him some attention for that one because that was a really good post.
That's a
Oh,
good
yeah,
one.
I definitely I told him right on. That was like really good saying.
I have a counter to that post, and it's that a woman who works in a profession involving servicing men is unlikely to have a real bond with a man.
That is true.
Well,
That's
isn't
my
that their
response
job?
to that.
Is not to have a bond? It's just for that vicarious thrill.
Or for money, service for money.
Yeah, exactly.
OnlyFans in a sense.
Yeah, I think what Dan Crane said is pretty spot on. It's
He's had some excellent quotes. in the
yeah,
chat.
he's on fire. I've been watching the chats and I've seen some of this stuff, dude. They're pretty good. This one specifically is pretty spot on. It's
I think it
pretty
goes back to, if a woman sees that a man's willing to sacrifice, and serve other people, or I don't know, I'm not going to put words into Dan Crane's mouth, but in a sense,
Mhm.
look out for others first. It just shows that you can probably have confidence in this person doing the right thing and protecting them and their eventual family, and doing the right thing when it comes to whatever they need to do in regards to participating in their community, youth sports, school, whatever be necessary.
Mhm. Steve, I wanted to add something to what you said about you're not being a dad yet. That's fine. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, don't rush it. I mean,
No, it's
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
I'm not.
this is sorry.
No, you can go. We're gonna take each other. We're gonna do it one word at a time. Tagged. You're it.
Yeah. Boop. Anyway, I was just gonna
So,
say,
JRC, what were you saying?
I
No, go right ahead, JRC.
I was saying that Steve,
You're
You're
a
making a
tunnel.
great point, JRC. I'm just kidding. I'm done.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to try this way. All right. So, anyway, I was saying that Steve. Honestly, the thing is that there are too many people who are just rushing into just having kids without even thinking about it. I mean, if anybody's seen my Twitter account, I'm extremely pro-life, and I think the biggest thing is how a lot of people are wanting to. I'll just say it straight out. They just want to have sex without consequences. But the thing is that being part of being part of a father is to think about these consequences, to think about life. Even though you don't have kids, you're already thinking about them already. You're planning these things out. You're thinking, okay, what could come of this? What could not come of this? And that's honestly all of a father's role. That not all, but that's the biggest role of a father is to plan these things out, to think about these things, to take your time, to realize, hey, you know what? Instead of just rushing into it, let's really think about this because you're bringing a life into this world.
Yeah.
When
So
I
we're
talk,
gonna get to what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say when I talked about my being thankful for my youngest son and that we've transitioned here into the parenting thing. If you look up over here on my shoulder, those are my twin sons. They were
Mhm.
born a year before my son that's sitting across from me, and they died shortly after birth.
Oh man.
When you experience that, your perspective on being a parent changes. You understand the importance of being there for your son or daughter, and honestly, I don't know what kind of parent I would have been if I hadn't unfortunately gone through that. So the the just deep diving into being the best parent, especially a dad that you can be to your kids, is it's so important and so rewarding. I cannot even begin to describe the level of joy and happiness I have received even after that loss with the experience I've had with my son. And that to me is what is the best part of being a dad or a parent is enjoying the amazing times. And he's now at an age where we can have some borderline adult conversations, or if we're out grocery shopping and we see a mother and a teenage daughter, I can kind of nudge him and go, hey, hey, look. It becomes really more enjoyable in life because you start to appreciate the smaller things. So if like for Steve, if you do adopt or become a parent, just enjoy the little things, man.
Yeah.
It adds so much value that if you don't look for it, you will never ever see it.
hmm Dude, that's awesome for explaining that or just telling us. That's really cool, man.
Thank you for sharing that story. I think that is a powerful story. That
Yeah.
as much tragedy as people can go through, if you search for strength through family or faith or however you can, and friends or wherever you can draw it from, you can pull something out of it moving forward.
Absolutely.
Never get over
Absolutely.
a loss like that, but you can pull something out of it, And
Oh, yeah.
I think um, that's a something able to pull something from tragedy, like you've discussed your path from that point on is just a beautiful thing.
It is. It really is. It
Mhm.
hurts like hell, especially on their anniversary of their
Yeah.
birth and death.
Oh, wow.
But it like I said, you after you like in my case, after I went through about 2 years of zombie like status in the brain, it really changes your perspective on so many things on how you want to be the best dad for your kid or kids that you
Mhm.
can possibly be.
Yeah.
And it's weird to say I wouldn't change a thing because I became a better man and a better dad having gone through that.
Yeah.
It's definitely character building. I mean, I'm not just trying to say it as like as our parents think, but it's truly character building. I mean, the lives that we experience, the hurt, the suffering that we experience in life just ultimately shows us, well, which way we're going to go. Are we going to continue to go up or are we just going to continue to go down?
Hmm.
You
Well,
know,
one of the
and
things I've noticed, or what were you gonna say?
oh, I was going to say that one of the things was is that my late father, he passed away in 2005. He was only 54 years old. And my in fact, my 3-year-old son, he is named after him. It was a promise I made to him on his deathbed in 2005. And a lot of time, and my dad was actually a foster child. Um, and my natural grandmother was actually a prostitute. So my dad didn't even have a father. And to bring it, he said one of the biggest joys was that I was his firstborn, and so he said it was the greatest joy that I ever had. In fact, the father's memories is just so important. Now, just to show you just something real quick, is that this key has been on my key ring for many, many years, and this went to my dad's car, and he and I had many. He was an evangelist, and so we used to go up and down the West Coast. And it was a 1990 Toyota Camry wagon, and we used to have talks like these. And we've had hard talks. We've had the talk in that car, and you should have seen my face when he was all done talking. I was like, "Really? You're a kid? No, wow."
So,
But
did you happen
yeah.
to have a talk with him where you explained the difference between horror, as in a horror movie, or a whore, as in a working girl? Because if you didn't have that talk yet, I know the perfect person to have that talk with your son.
Sorry. Okay, just send along that name. I'll check it out. But anyway, to Jeff, I was just
My
like, yeah,
pleasure.
it's definitely thanks. Yeah, we need a little lightheartedness here. But Jeff,
Oh,
anyway, I understand
absolutely.
completely, man. And I'll tell you something. You got me a little choked up when you told me about that. I'll be honest. So
I I think one of the cool things about men, and every guy will figure this out, is how we build ourselves to be better men. It's an everyday thing. It's not just
Yes.
boom, it's light clicked on, I'm a man. Cool. All right, I'm masculine, let's do this. No, it's every day. And it's how we become better men is through the trials that we go through. Like I grew up poor a lot, and from that I had to learn how to work, how to survive, and in that it made me stronger as a man, and how to understand, like, I know how to survive through this situation. Let's get to the next one. And it's not easy. It's not. It gets harder and harder, but it's always going to build it. It's like a callus.
Absolutely. Like with my case, when I found out we were having twins, several times I'm like, "Oh crap! How I there's no way I can be a father to twins." And then transition to the birth of my youngest son, my brain went from no way I can be a father of twins to I'm going to be the best damn dad I can to
Hmm.
be my youngest.
mm,
And the experience of the growth and the tribulations I can't explain completely. how amazing it has been when I sit back and look and just to acknowledge how much I've learned not only from myself but from the groups I've been in with other parents who have lost or and just day-to-day life with living with my son. It is such a great feeling to know that even at my age, the growth is not stopping, it's only continuing.
Absolutely.
So we have two more tweets, and we're saving the best for last because I think every single one of us is gonna have fun with the last one. I know I am. But we're gonna do this one coming up. This one really pissed me off, by the way. So I want to rip this one a whole new one. All right. I've been complimented for raising awareness about toxic masculinity. Male feminists, detoxify yourself, 5-step plan. Women are people too. This guy can go fuck himself. That's all I gotta say. These tweets. This would be a male feminist tweet. This is not simping. This is a male feminist who, by the way, male feminist. I'll get to the male feminist part next, which is really stupid. But this one right here, it's what like it's this whole brainwash thing that thinking being masculine is such a bad thing. It's not. It's not toxic. What's toxic is the guys who make it toxic. In general, being masculine has nothing to do about being macho or any of that stuff. It's just in us. Every guy has a different way of showing their masculinity. It's this whole women are people too hashtag. Yes, women are people. We get that. We're not. It's yes, there are some jackasses who treat women wrong and do all this stupid stuff to make women feel like they're less of a person, but majority, I would say 90% of guys and men don't think that way. They think, yeah, women are people. If this is the problem that we have, it's the West Coast and East Coast that have it. It's the liberal side of everything that has this idea that all guys are bad. Well, if you go to the Midwest, it's a whole lot different. Or the South, it's way different. It's this whole raising awareness. Here's the thing. For me, I hate the whole raising awareness. What do you guys think? This guy is a jackass, dude. It's just he deserves a thump in the Adam's apple if this is a dude. I don't know. This is just it's maybe how it doesn't have an Adam's apple. I don't know. I'm probably
This is
just
the type of
assuming his
person
gender.
that should have been given a wedgie and walked around by their wedgie and then swirled in the toilet. And that's how people learn to not act like an idiot like this guy growing up. So in some circumstances, bullying does serve a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's another thing. Okay, so the male feminist thing. This is the problem that a lot of women don't understand. Some women do, but a lot of them don't. A male feminist is just a way for a guy to get in the girl's pants. That's literally what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
There's another term for male feminist, Steve.
An idiot.
It's called serial rapist.
Yes, that too. It's male feminists are one of the worst. Like there's simps, we can make fun of them, but you could train them. You could teach them like, hey, look, this is how you approach women. There's some room to actually help and just help those guys. A male feminist is the polar opposite of anything. It's a guy who will agree with anything a woman says, a feminist, and they will do everything possible, be there for the girl, be there for that, everything, just always there, like yay, pom-poms, whatever. Just so the woman can feel bad because, oh, I had a bad day at work or I got fired or whatever it is that makes them emotional and just break down and cry. The male feminist will swoop in and try to make a move. That's all the male feminist does. And it pisses me off because it makes men look bad. Because then it targets us. When I go into church in high school, especially in college before I met my wife, there was a big deal in church that a guy, you had to wait about 3 months, which I totally understood because there's guys that went into the church to just date women and just ruin them. And that pissed me off because it killed the chance of actually looking for a good, godly woman. That's how I wanted to approach of finding
Can
my
I
wife.
jump in here? Can I
Yeah,
jump
you
in here? And I'm
can.
sorry.
Yes, missus.
You gotta put look. I understand guys can be dogs and this and that, but guys have two purposes biologically. It's to hunt, and the other is to procreate.
Mhm.
Right? So you can't just attack men for wanting to do either one of those things, right? I'm
Right.
just gonna jump on this aspect because what is like one of the stereotypes regarding like Catholic schoolgirls or like all girls schools, right? Like going back to like film tropes in 80s, 90s, whatever. You know, stereotypes happen for a reason. But my point is, some of the blame has to be laid on the women to have more respect for themselves and not hook up with guys on the first date. You know, just as it goes for guys. I mean, you know, um, I can't tell you how many times I've gone on dates and it's like, you know, a girl wants to buy you drinks, and then before you know it, you know, you're finishing the date, you think you're going home, and then somehow she takes you to her place. You didn't ask to go to her place. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're drunk, you're intoxicated and can't defend yourself. All of a sudden you see your clothes getting ripped off and on the floor, and you felt like some type of suction. It's very uncomfortable. And a lot of the times during these dates, you know, I never ever heard my grandparents discuss gag reflex ever, especially during the Thanksgiving dinner. Ever. But you go on dates these days, and you know, it's a lot to swallow. I get it. But that's part of the reason why there's less fathers these days. I mean, I don't remember our grandparents, you know, discussing this stuff and doing this type of debauchery where you just swallow millions of generations of someone's potential offspring without asking. It's very rude and disrespectful. And I think it's something that needs to be addressed. So I just think there needs to be accountability. Men need to be better, women need to be better. And, you know, wait at least till you've had 3 different ethnic variety of foods on multiple dates. You know, you got Chinese, Italian, maybe Japanese food or Mexican. Let's go 4. Let's just go 4. Let's say stretch it out to at least a couple of weeks where you have 4 different varieties of ethnic foods on dates to see what you have in common, what you don't, before you know, start kissing on each other where you pee. Okay? That's just my advice. Moving on,
That
Steve.
sounds like an
Let's
amazing
go.
buffet to go to. Where is that?
Yeah, I mean, when you're bumping where you pee, I mean, you know, I don't know. I just, you know, some people go digging for gold with their tongue on the first date, you know, for nuggets, and I just don't know how you do that. I mean, how do you don't even know if you like the same food choices, and you're just digging for gold? I just
How
I
come
don't
you're
even know.
not
I don't know what to say anymore. I'm trying to stay positive. I'm trying to stay positive.
like
I just
I agree with that. What I meant with
and
the whole
not HIV positive, you know, from too many Tinder dates.
like what I meant about the whole church thing, guys coming in, it's they become this whole they want to put a notch on their belt of how many innocent girls can we get, and that it makes it hard to if you're going to church and you finally meet your wife. It makes it really difficult because then they set rules of like, all right, you got to do this and this and this, and then you can date someone who's new. It makes it. I had a really huge issue with that because of a lot of guys. But you're not wrong that women should respect themselves. It should be where women should definitely respect themselves. I never in college. I never really did the whole. All right, on the first date, we're just gonna do it.
Mhm.
It's to me. I'm from the Midwest South. Like it's. I want to treat a woman with respect before any of that because I took value in it, and it's it's just something that I think both sides need to understand that like, hey, like we need to respect respect ourselves before we respect each other. Because once we respect ourselves, then we can evaluate a lot of good things out of it. And I just think that when you put this whole awareness on toxic masculinity, well, how about awareness on toxic male feminism or toxic feminism? It's the whole feminism thing that now is just we hate men. Okay, we talked about this last week. You hate men, yet what are you going to do about a guy who dresses up and then wins a pageant? You're not going to say anything about that?
I was even thinking of.
I will say something in defense of church-going women, looking for wholesome men in church. And it's probably a lot harder for women, depending on the church that you go to find a virgin male in their church, especially if they're like an altar boy, because they're usually, lose their virginity by the time they're 8 or 9 years old, in compared to the women. So it's not as easy as it thinks to find a wholesome man at a church, depending on the type of church you go to these days. I respect any woman that goes to church. I think that's a good thing, to have faith in their life. And that way, if they act like a whore, they can feel ashamed of themselves and look like God is watching them if they're going down, bumping peepees on the first date and trying to dig gold out of Jeff's or Zach's booty hole after they finish having Chinese food after meeting on Tinder 2 hours ago. So I will come to the defense of women. I don't want to sound too harsh, because I think, like I said earlier, I think it takes two to tango and to touch, key holes.
No, I totally am on your side on that. I just wanted to clarify a little bit more of that, but you're not wrong. I totally am on board on that. So I think women should respect themselves a little bit more, and men should just kind of.
And I'll say this: I'll tell you what, guys will like you so much more and respect you so much more if you make them work for it an extended amount of time. It's a big deal. It's a big deal that I don't think is discussed nearly enough. Big deal. Because I'll tell you one thing I was discussing with my parents, when we had the so-called talk, where it was just I popped open my glove compartment of the first car I bought, and there was a 3-pack of condoms with a note saying, "You know what to do." And I remember my mom's version was the talk is, remember, any girl that you decide to hook up with has the potential of being in your life a minimum of 18 years. 18 years minimum. If you somehow have a child with that woman. So you better be selective of who you put it in. And that traumatized me for years, because for years, every time I was hooking up with a woman, had this like voice in the back of my head, like 18 years, kind of like the fat kid in Sandlot. Forever. But it is an excellent point in that you need to be very, very selective who you decide to insert yourself with.
So
there was also one more advice. It may not be popular, but I do remember a male role model of mine telling me, say, look, 2 out of 3 holes isn't bad. That was good advice as well.
So we're going to get to the last tweet. And I think I'm seeing if Andy Masterson wants to jump in.
And Goat, I sent an additional tweet in the live chat if you have a chance to pull that up.
But we're going to get to probably the one I think everyone is just going to hammer.
We need a drum roll.
I mean, if you
want,
want,
I just want to give a shout out to Gary Ambrosia in the chat. He's my favorite hammer.
He's your favorite hammer? What about my hammers, man? But
you're my favorite wrench.
So let's get to the next tweet, shall we? This is a 2-parter. I've been waiting for this one for a long time.
Do it.
No mercy.
So here's Kevin Dingleberry. I'm gonna cry in every fucking selfie I possibly can because I'm a simp, beta, whatever you want to talk. Just saw the Black Panther. Jesus, that mid-credit scene worth the price of an admission alone. All right, it's the next tweet. God, I hate that face.
I can't
Okay,
get
can we just
over
say-
how absolutely dumb this is. You want me to pull up the next one or just
Yes, this
Oh,
one.
man.
I'm pretty outraged about this, Kevin, whatever his name is.
Kevin, I'm gonna cry because no one likes
How
He-Man.
can you celebrate Disney Marvel turning such a wonderful character that's been popular, excuse me, I'm just broken up by this, for generations, and you turn the Black Panther into a deadbeat dad, and you're celebrating that? That brings you to I'm just, the level of racism in Kevin Smith is just astronomical. You're gonna celebrate Disney Marvel turning the Black Panther into a deadbeat dad? I mean, I at a loss for words. I don't even know what to say. Unbelievable.
So here,
I was going to say. Oh, sorry.
No, you can go.
I was going to say this is something that I came up with this term that that something like that when I see like that I came up with this term, and I came up with it a long time ago, way before BLM and everything like that, because I had somebody who was just like that at a place I used to work at, and I call them a white ambassador, meaning that they won't allow. And once again, I'm not trying to be racist. I'm just, this from my observations, is that they will try to teach white people what black people are thinking, because black people can't speak for themselves to other white people. At least that's their mindset. And they have to wait for somebody else.
Bubbles, just out of curiosity, when they try to teach people, these virtue signaling idiots, how, it's supposedly they're have psychic abilities to see the thoughts of black people, please tell me that they don't try to tell you that black people's thoughts are in jive talk. Because I would.
I just got that airplane vibe. Yeah.
If they did,
Hey, Andy.
I'm gonna call the ADL, the HBC, the HSBA, the YMCA. I'm just outraged. Welcome, Andy Masterson.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Action figure
Hey,
maker.
Andy.
Thank you so much for joining the show.
All right, let's reset the show.
All right.
Since Andy's here, so let's go
Bring
ahead and start
back,
from the beginning.
bring back the Kevin Smith tweet, and then I'll read this one, which I realize probably everyone in the chat's probably read it already, but bring up, I want Andy's opinion on this also.
This ought to be good.
God, dude, look at this fucking face.
Can we say
help
real
it.
quick? Can we say what the mid-credit scene of Wakanda Forever was?
Bunch of avatars.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler. If any of you, I'll say this: if any of you paid money to go watch a Black Panther movie without Black Panther in it, you should be ashamed of yourself. I think you're watching the wrong show. We really appreciate you watching, and Disney appreciates your money for mediocre product, but I can't imagine spending money to go see Disney turn the Black Panther into a deadbeat dad.
Yeah. So, Andy, I don't know if you saw this tweet. It's pretty much, you probably have, with Kevin Smith saying that he praises the mid-credits of Black Panther and worth the price of admission. Here's the other thing I just now noticed. He says Black Panther. Does he mean the first one or the second one? See? We need to understand these things, man. But all right, let's get to Simp Boy on this one. This one, oh man. I have a knack of frustration with these types of simps, and I'll get to it. But if Goat, if you could bring up the last tweet,
The one from before?
yeah, the one that is replied to this one.
You got it.
Kevin Smith hate is so forced and only fueled by toxic masculinity. What the fuck? I don't. Okay. I get not liking his movies, but he's one of the most genuine guys out there in Hollywood. He just loves fiction, movies, and fantasy. He's just a big fucking nerd, and for some reason that pisses people off. No, it's the fact that he posts a picture of him selfie with probably he put like onions in his eyes to make him cry. It's every single movie he's in. Here's the other thing. He's not genuine. It's paid. He lied about He-Man, which is garbage. He just does this. He does the Mark Hamill of tweets, but with emotional crying, emotional damage, as I like to call it.
I don't know about onions,
It's-
man. I'm thinking he's on drugs.
I
Or
was
that,
gonna
or he
say,
pokes himself with a needle. I don't know, whatever. I don't know what.
hey, I was gonna
He's an
say he
actor,
finished off that big joint of the devil's lettuce. That's probably what it looked like.
probably,
You know?
but it's
Yeah.
it's the simps who try to simp for celebrities. Whether it's like, okay, he's gonna see that he probably has how many comments and shares and all this stuff that Kevin Smith has on his fake ass "I'm gonna cry" selfie, and then you get to this numbnuts who decides, hey, this guy's gonna see it. Maybe I'll get. I don't know his intentions. He might get picked up to work on Clerks 45. I don't know. It's the thing with Kevin Smith is, and a lot of these celebrities is they're virtue signaling to all these ideas of, well, if I do this, people are going to go see this movie. Clearly, nobody's seeing Black Panther Wakanda. And this guy is, or girl, I don't know, could be whoever, is talking about toxic masculinity. How does making a comment about a guy who clearly is faking crying toxic masculinity? I've seen more chicks go after Kevin Smith than dudes, because dudes are like, this guy's a fucking idiot. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go, I don't know, work on my car. Whatever. I don't. Just
Beta
whatever.
male.
Yeah, this
You
guy
remember
is
that video? Oh, I'm sorry. You remember that video of that? It was a mother with her son, and they were trying. I think they were doing a live stream at one. It was I can't remember who was named. She was like a famous Twitch user or something like that, and her son had something like surgery done or something, and he was in pain. And she didn't realize she turned on. She had the camera still rolling. She's like, "Okay, look at the camera. Look like you're in pain." And her son kept saying, "I am in pain." And the mom was definitely setting it up, and it just kind of goes to show you, if you have to selfie yourself while you're crying or crying, I'm not going to believe you're crying or you're really feeling something about it. It's just it's totally fake.
Just real
I
quick
wish-
to the panel, everybody, if you don't
Yeah, I just
mind,
saw
say
it.
goodnight to RG Merkel. Thank
RG
you for
Merkel,
coming.
thank you so much for
Hey,
watching.
RG,
Have a good
sorry,
night.
man.
Thank you so much for being in the chat. You get some rest.
That goes for everybody watching and participating in the chat. Thank you so much for checking out our show.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of bumbling
Yeah,
idiots.
definitely.
Unless you paid for a ticket to Black Panther.
Andy, what I want to know your opinion of this. This is I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Yes,
So-
please.
Kevin Smith, I don't know what his deal is. I think he he's in way over his head as far as talent. If he were more talented, he would have been a more successful filmmaker. But he's trying to live up to something that he's trying to stay relevant. It's almost as pathetic as Madonna, putting on her little pictures out there of like the 60-year-old woman acting like the 30-year-old slut, and it's as most of my life, there's I've had this ideal that like manliness is high stoicism. Now that doesn't mean unemotional. Now granted, there's a cold-blooded gene that goes through my family. When my brothers and I were standing up there at my mother's casket, we were cracking jokes, usually at the expense of my mom's family. But as I've gotten older, there are certain movies that will hit me harder, and I think it ties in directly to how much pain an individual has felt. Black Panther is it's not something I can understand to cry over. Now, and I'm not talking about Chadwick Boseman. I can't imagine what it's like growing up. I don't understand the idea of identifying with a cartoon character as your hero. I didn't look at Captain America and say, "Hey, he's white like me. I could be Captain America." It was like as much chance of being Captain America as I did being Chewbacca. It melanin count certainly didn't play a part in that, but I can't understand, and I can't know what it's like to be a young black kid who's like, all right, I don't see a whole lot of characters that like look like me. But the problem with this whole film and celebrating it is that it didn't take into consideration the cultural relevance that it could have had, and the stereotypes that it played into. And it's funny because there's only accountability in one direction when these things happen. And they've inadvertently caused themselves a whole lot of problems because of what they did. Kevin Smith is doing nothing here but trying to spread out his 15 minutes of fame a little bit longer. But it's like the same joke you've done over and over again. It's not funny anymore. Oh, well, Kevin Smith's crying. It's another day that ends in Y. Yeah, the guy had a heart attack, and maybe he's like feels his mortality a little bit more, and maybe things are affecting him a little bit more. If you cry all the time, it loses its effect. It's like it's the same thing if you're a parent and all you do is yell at your kids. Like, guess what? The yelling loses its effect. They just kind of tune you out anymore. It's the same thing. Even if you were to beat a kid, sooner or later the kid just like, all right, well, I'm going to get beat again, and they're not going to change. It's just going to be like another thing.
Gonna grab the belt for you, like I did.
My son's stubborn. When I told him that he was going to learn how to defend himself, and I made him do classes with me until he was 18 years old, and he did not hide his disdain for being forced to be there. And this kid, I put a shin lock on him that I've had grown men whimper in pain with, and he refused to even like give me an inch of reaction. I knew it hurt him, and I knew how much pressure to apply. But when he was little, I came up from teaching a class. My wife was with my daughter doing Girl Scouts, and so I come upstairs, and he's not in bed. I'm like, go to bed. Like, you're supposed to be in bed. He's like, I'm watching this. I'm like, go to bed. Like, I'm watching this. Because it's really stern face. Like, I said, go to bed. It's like, turn the TV off. And he gets up, and he's like, and he's probably about 7 years old. And he's like, I said, get upstairs now. No. I said, get upstairs now. I'm going to spank your butt. No. So I give him a crack on his butt. You going upstairs? No. So I hit him a little bit harder. And you going upstairs now? No. Like, so I hit him one more time. And I know how hard I can hit. And like, I know it hurt. It stung him pretty good. And he's like, you going upstairs? No. And I know I couldn't hit him any harder because it would hurt him. Like, really hurt him. So I said, fine. Now, this kid who didn't show an ounce of effect from being whacked on his butt 3 times pretty hard, I said, don't talk to me the rest of the night. In seconds, he was in tears, holding onto my leg, not wanting me to be mad at him. So there are times for when emotion is, it can't be overused, it can't be overdone, or else it cheapens it. It's like, and if there's going to be something that's going to have an impact, it's going to have an effect, and it has to be special, it has to be something rare. You know, there's nothing more powerful than seeing someone who's so stalwart, and you see the armor cracking a little bit, then you know something powerful's happened. Kevin Smith crying over a movie and saying that this thing is the most powerful thing he's ever felt, and that he's crying about it. Like, every single one of these people did the exact same thing. They wanted to show their grief over Chadwick Boseman. They wanted to show how it affected them. Well, if your argument was that there weren't enough strong male heroes for young black kids to identify with, why didn't you recast him?
Exactly.
This part is bigger
That's an
than one
excellent
actor.
point, Andy.
This part's bigger and more important than one actor.
They had no
Yeah.
problem recasting General Ross or
Brody.
another character of color in James Rhodes.
Or the
That was
Hulk,
never-
or
not
like
an issue.
it's. But this is the thing. It's like it's all about them. They wanted to show their grief and their sorrow. Well,
Well,
that's not helping anything.
And I was going to say,
And
let's be fair about this. I'm sorry, but Chadwick Boseman, he passed away, and I'm not trying to diminish that his death or anything, but he passed away a while ago, and we all know he passed away. This is not something recent and shocking.
well, this is the thing. It's like, no one's going to remember this movie. I mean, Steve, you and Gary have done like the movie thing and stuff like that, and you've worked on a lot of these. But the movie industry is certainly overvalued. You go into a Walmart, you'll see the $5 bin. I guarantee if you look through there, you're going to find several Academy Award winners. I challenge the average person to tell me what won the Academy Award last year. I guarantee you, maybe 1% of the people will be able to tell you. Probably less.
It was a movie with Viola Davis.
I don't even know what was nominated last year.
Yeah,
and no one cared.
It's irrelevant. You got such a great point how they've made movies.
Mm-hmm.
There are no great films anymore, and they've made the award shows completely irrelevant, whether it's film, television, or music. They're just unwatchable because it's no longer about entertainment. It's about lecturing people.
The thing
and
that
people don't care.
The thing
At least
about
normal people.
Yeah, it's the thing about Black Panther. This had the perfect opportunity to, and I would understand when Kevin Smith cried about this part, is that it showed a father. This is a lot of comic books, movies don't, even comic books, a lot of them, they don't really, from what I've read on some of them, they don't really nail on this, and Black Panther, the movie, could have done this really well, is a father figure type storyline of some type where you could tie that in there to help younger kids, because I think that's a lot of things younger kids don't get enough of, is the father figure. Like, I mean, you got Captain America, but not
Steve,
everyone wants to be Captain what?
I don't think it would have gone over well if they recast T'Challa with a white actor.
So not Ryan Reynolds? But
I'm not sure it would go over well.
Like, my point is, it's if they made
What
a
if they
movie,
used Chris Evans?
Well, I mean, you
They
want
could've.
someone to portray a father figure, you know?
But my point is, if they took the time to say, hey, look, we don't have Chadwick Boseman, what's the best thing we can do? Recast him.
Robert
I
Downey
think
Jr. would deep fake Chadwick Boseman face.
I
Like
think a
from
lot.
Crocodile?
Yeah. I think a lot of people would be forgiving if they recasted Black Panther, and I don't want to get too deep into Black Panther and everything. But I think
You
if
wanted to talk about Star Wars, right?
yeah, Jesus man. Oh yeah, totally. Uh-huh. And I think if they took the time to actually recast the Black Panther, I think a lot of us would have been forgiving on that and be like, you know what, it happens. He's
Especially if
not
there's a good
here.
story attached.
Yeah, it's this whole I'm gonna cry over something that literally no one wanted.
I could think of a much more believable story where T'Challa had an affair with whatever the race that they're called, Namor's people. You know,
You got to roll the R when you say that.
Namor.
Yeah.
If
sorry.
T'Challa had an affair with a woman of a Latin descent from a rival kingdom, and it turned out that Namor was his long lost child, that would resonate with both of those communities of color, and I think that would go a lot further to what Marvel's goals were, to try to cater to random communities and stereotypes and just embarrassing tropes and insult the intelligence of those communities instead of treating them like human beings, and not just write great scripts with great storytellings that transcend generations and that can be meaningful to many people regardless of their race, their economic background. They just can imagine themselves as a character or one of the characters in these films, put themselves in their shoes.
So
I
we're
want to add to Andy's
yeah.
point real quick. About movies that change that we've taken a different perspective on. One of my favorite movies growing up when I was a kid was Field of Dreams. I loved that movie. When the first time I actually saw it, my parents recorded it using VHS, and I absolutely love that movie. And then when and I watched it for years and years, and then when my dad passed away in 2005, and I go back and I watch that, and when Kevin, oh crap,
Oscar.
sorry, when Kevin Costner says, "Hey, Dad," and crap, sorry, uh, it gets to me now. I grew up on that movie for like years since I was a kid, and then when my dad passed away, yeah, just right there.
I can totally understand what JRC is getting at. I remember, I believe it was in 7th grade, I had an English teacher everybody loved, Mr. Goose, and he would share books with the class that he recommended, or if the class did exceptionally well on tests, we would watch a film based on the film version of whatever book we had read. And then one of the movies he wanted to share, I remember his favorite book was Dune for a variety of reasons, and then his favorite film all time was Field of Dreams. And I remember how meaningful the film was to him, and he shared the stories about his relationship with his father, who had passed away by that time. And we were watching the film, and I hadn't seen it before. And I think when it came out, I was still at the age where I wouldn't have understood it initially when it first came out several years earlier. And I watched the film, and it was such a beautiful film. And the interaction with Kevin Costner and Ray Liotta and James Earl Jones are just, it's just a beautiful film altogether. And then I remember asking my dad to play catch after that. And, my dad grew up on the East Coast. He comes from just a middle class Jewish family on Long Island, and we went to play catch, and my dad threw me the ball, and it two hopped, and we were only about 40 feet away, and I just realized how unathletic my father was, and then I went to throw the ball back to him, and he didn't get his glove up in time, and it just glanced off of the edge of the glove and bounced right off his forehead, and he's on the ground, and I was a mess because I thought I killed my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized it was just a bump on his head. He wasn't bleeding. And then I just proceeded to just throw the ball against the wall and then catch it back from that. And, you know, it was just a memorable experience, and I'll never forget
You
that
know
movie
what?
growing
The
up.
fact that he tried, there was no one that knew how bad he was with a baseball than he did. But he went out there and did it with you anyway. That's the mark of a father. That's like, I mean, it's when you can you can allow your kids to see that you're not perfect. That's I mean, you try to be. You're trying to be as good as you can. And you have to be aware of your shortcomings. You have to be aware of how one of the nicest things that my son ever said to me was that after seeing a lot of the fathers that his friends had, made him realize how lucky he was. That is the best compliment I can get. When people compliment my kids and tell me how good and competent they are with things, that to me that's the best. And that's the problem that we have in this whole country right now, is that we've stopped teaching kids about doing things that have meaning. The culture is telling us that the thing with least effort is the most valuable. It's like cheap, meaningless sex. That's going to it's teaching you. It's just like the entertainment industry. Consume next product. It's like dopamine hit to dopamine hit to dopamine hit. That's all that matters to you. And when in reality, the things that have true meaning are hard. Life is hard. Life is supposed to be hard. Life is hard by design, because the only things that have value are the things that you have to earn and you have to work for and struggle with. The things that are easy, anybody can do. That's what makes it difficult. That's why things are when you have to struggle for something. That's why the participation trophy is so damaging, because you didn't have to work for it. That's why, and we should be teaching these young kids that if you go out and you sleep with everybody, what do you have that's special to give a special person that would only be for them, if not yourself? But we don't do that. We throw these. We're allowing this stuff to go in there and to say that reality doesn't mean anything. That the vocabulary of the world is meaningless. That words don't mean what they actually mean anymore. It's like, well, I don't identify as that, so therefore I'm not that. Well, I just saw this thing the other day about this girl, yeah, this guy, I met him on Tinder. Everything was going great. Then he found out I had slept with almost 100 guys, and then he ghosted me. Well, no kidding. Nobody wants to be the guy that's drinking the backwash out of the soda on the table. It's and vice versa. I mean, it's the whole culture needs to shift. Things like movies aren't important. Things like Tinder aren't important. It's and they don't realize that they're being sold a false bill of goods. It's they don't realize that they're doing this thing to each other, where they're telling them that yeah, listen to your feelings. Don't listen to your feelings. Your feelings are stupid. The feelings are the thing that the woman with 2 black eyes. Why don't you leave him? I love him. Your feelings are stupid. It's not helping you. Use your mind. Use your brain. You get a guy I can't understand these guys that get 6 kids with 4 different women. And there's another one going to sleep with them. What do you expect is going to happen? What do you think? And here you have this movie that Kevin Smith is crying about. And what do? At the very end of the movie, there's T'Challa's son that will grow up without a father. When the character's introduced in Civil War, he's crying over the death of his father.
He seeks revenge for the death of his father.
Yeah.
He's out seeking revenge.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And this kid won't have that. And
That's how he's
this is the
introduced in the
message.
MCU.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is the message that they're putting out there to kids. Like, oh, well, you don't have a dad. The other day, I heard Mexican Iron Man go off. And now, Mexican Iron Man was raised by a single mom, and he this thing hit him hard. It's like that, you know, we've we've heard him tell the stories about how he would look at characters on TV because he didn't have that model in his life. He would look at William Shatner as being this model. And who do we have today that you can't look at an actor anymore because you got them opening their mouths on Twitter and showing you just how much of a jackass they all are, showing you how stupid they all are. Kevin Smith's opinion is absolutely meaningless on anything because, like, now you turn that around and you look at a guy like Denzel Washington. Here's a guy who doesn't say much. When he says something, people listen. Anthony Hopkins said the same thing. It's like, and Denzel Washington goes and he like cut a check for this whole burn unit thing for our servicemen that were injured in the war. You know what? You know what he didn't do? He didn't post about it on Twitter. He didn't post about it on Facebook so everybody kissed his ass and told him how wonderful he was. He just did it. You see all this stuff going on. Like, we saw the Oscar slap with Will Smith and all that. Like, what? And everybody knows like what happened with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. Like, and there's this woman making you look like he felt like he needed to reaffirm his masculinity. Well, that was the wrong place to do it. Like, your wife is treating you like shit in public. Your wife is like making you look like a jackass in front of all your fans. And that's the thing. We're not showing the kids things with meaning. We're telling kids that, like, somebody who played a character on a TV screen was that important. Great performance, but that wasn't Chadwick Boseman. And he may have been a great guy. I don't know. I don't know anything about him. But I know that you shouldn't be looking for your heroes on a screen. The real heroes. My dad was my hero. I was lucky with that. I had somebody there who gave me an example. I only had him for 23 years, but still, it was like, here was a guy that, like, he would binge drink. He had, undiagnosed and untreated PTSD. I mean, the guy survived the Battle of the Bulge. We lost like 8,000 men in that fight, and you see somebody go through things. Like, saw my dad fall down a flight of the stairs going in the basement, broke 3 ribs. Never once did he wince or cry out in pain. I mean, that to me was like, so our gift to the next generation has to be something different. Our gift to the next generation has to come along and say, look, we used to say this. We used to say these things. This is where, like, conservative things, like, what does that mean? It means you hold on to the things that you should hold on to. Not all traditions are great. Some traditions are stupid. This movie talks about colonizers and stuff like that. Well, before the British Empire colonized India, they used to take the wives and throw them into, like, the husband's burning funeral pyre, and so they would die with their husband. I think that's a good tradition to get rid of.
Yeah.
But you have to take the things that are important, that are valuable, and this is what guys like Kevin Smith don't understand. Out there, all of them in this show, they're all about showing what Chadwick Boseman's death meant to me. Nobody cares what Chadwick Boseman's death meant to you. You're nobody important. The character has the potential to carry on and do these things. He only played the character 3 times.
I'll say this too, Andy. In this film, there's not a single male character that a young man could look up to in a heroic fashion, similar to when you were younger, and you used some fantastic examples such as, John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, Captain America, and they dropped the ball with this. They had an amazing opportunity to recast and go back to the heart of the character at the introduction of father and son, or however they wanted to do it, to have a strong male role model in this film. That doesn't mean you have to take anything away from the other female characters and stuff, but at the end of the day, when women, I'll use the Aquaman film with Jason Momoa, for example, right? The men go to watch that show because they'd love to be heroic and be like him. And the women go that because they like the way he looks without his shirt off. It's just that simple. That's how you get those both audiences and stuff. Women don't want to go to the movies and see other women beat the crap out of 10 guys at once. They just don't care. And
I will.
I'm going to add one last thing too that I think is fascinating based on the fact you brought up Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington paid the tuition for Chadwick Boseman to go through college. Never brought it up. It was never
That's
publicized
right.
or anything. And approximately, I think it was roughly 20 years later, they finally met in person, and Chadwick Boseman thanked him for it in person. For him, whatever scholarship or tuition, I don't know, recall
I think
off
it
the
was
top
a
of my head.
full. Everything was
He
paid.
paid for everything and allowed him to. So if it wasn't for Denzel Washington, we may have never even known Chadwick Boseman existed, as far as being a public figure and what he contributed to several films that he was in, which I enjoyed most of his performances in the films that he was, especially the Jackie Robinson and James Brown picks, and Civil War. I thought he was probably the best part about that movie. I mean, it was a very good movie too.
Well, that's
I will
silent, strong men are underappreciated. You take with that tweet where Kevin Smith seems to cry depending on which way the wind blows. And Andy, you talked about your dad with the steps and all that. Well, for me, I didn't have a father in my life. I had my grandfather. And there was one scene where I was maybe 10 or 11 where I was playing on this dirt hill with my little GI Joe figures, and he was on the farm burning some trash and stuff in his little burn barrel. And I don't know if it was igniter that he used to help uh, catch everything on fire, or if it was something in the burn pit that flew out and got him on his leg. And he tried putting it out and putting it out, and he struggled. He finally put it out, and when you looked at him, the pant leg on his left leg was completely gone, and you could see the markings and scarring already on his legs from the fire. The man kept working because he had a job to do. My aunt, who was living with him at the time, saw my reaction to my grandfather catching on fire, comes running out, and she tries to coax him into going to the hospital. And he's like, I got a job to do. Once I'm done my job, then I can stop, feel the pain, go to the hospital and get taken care of. And he did. He 20, 30 minutes, he took care of everything he had to do, went to the emergency room. He had second and third degree burns on his leg. And so for the next couple weeks to a month, he was bandaging it and putting ointment and everything on it, but he kept working. That is missing when you watch the new movies, or you look at this picture of Kevin Smith. Nothing screams that he would go through that. Um, Real Road Beer in chat talking about Kevin Smith. He has ruined everything he touched since he became skinny Silent Bob. And it's so true. It's like he's not, there's no presence there. And where in the movies and where in entertainment and where in everyday life do people see the presence of people that will do the job, get it done, don't worry about it, and not cry at everything depending on the way the wind blows.
You know what's funny is here you have Kevin Smith crying over Chadwick Boseman, and Chadwick Boseman uh, quietly struggled with his cancer and didn't tell anybody and didn't cry over it in public.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, and this is the problem that we have as far as like Kevin Smith is out there being this example of like, you're not being a strong man. And it doesn't mean that like, uh, 6 years ago, my brother Ed died.
Oh, wow.
He was there's four of us, and Ed was I'm the youngest. Ed was 2 years older than me. Mark's 2 years older than him. My half brother Jim, he's 13 years older than me. He's 9 years older than my brother Mark. And we were all closest with Ed. Ed was like he was a hub, and he and I had everything in common with comic books, movies. We would call each other up, and we would play out scenes from different shows we saw, like Benny Hill and Monty Python and Dirty Harry, all these different. He would say one line, I'd say the other, and we would play the whole scene out. And uh, here's a guy who was he was squatting 810 pounds when he was 49 years old. And we would spar together and things like that, and it's painful, but God, I miss it. So last year, I pull up. I just dropped my son off to get his to pick up his truck at the mechanics, and I pull in the in my driveway, and there's a little parking lot behind my house. And I'm going to walk into my house, and I hear a woman call my name, and she says to me, I walk over here. It's this girl that my brother Ed had dated. Now he had since been married and had a son and all that. Like 10, 12 years earlier, he had dated this girl for 10 years. And she said, I know it's but I just found out what happened with Ed. And I wanted to give you this. So it was this thing that that he had made, and I'll grab it off the wall in a minute when I finish this. And I'm looking at this, and you know what? Hang on 1 second, Steve. Jump on there. Somebody jump on there. I'll be right there.
There's two monkeys, and I don't know. The thing that we may not be able to get to the topic tonight, which we might leave for December, which is fine. This has become a great conversation. Everyone having really good inputs.
We're gonna have to bump this to 3 hours.
What?
Are we gonna have to bump this to 3 hours now?
Dude, I don't know. I've been thinking about it. I don't know. We might talk about it, but it's the thing about me. I grew up without really a dad. Like I've had two stepdads and my other dad who left me, and I'm adopted, and so I've never really had a good understanding of who a dad is, but so I always looked at movies or comic books as kind of a father figure, and to me it was always the male character like William Wallace from Braveheart or stuff like that would show not dominance but just sacrifice. And when we get stuff like Kevin Smith, who will post a selfie picture, and I think a lot of it has to do with him surviving the heart attack, that he gets emotional. And I think that has played a factor where it's kind of ruined his reputation a little bit. Not saying a guy can't cry. A guy can cry. That's okay. It's the fact that you've overdone it to the point where it becomes just a showboat. So
I wonder if Disney kidnapped him, and that's where that photo was taken against his will.
Yeah,
they forced him. The reason he was crying is he was forced to sit through that movie.
How much was your paycheck, Kevin?
So this is what
243 minutes of virtue signaling.
That's what she handed me. My brother drew this probably 32 years ago, and
that's awesome.
That is sweet.
I walked in, and I'm just looking at this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my daughter comes down the stairs, and I'm just sitting there, and she looked at my face and she can see, like, she's like, "What's wrong?" I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
I turned around with this and I'm like, and she's like, she's confused. I'm like, but I couldn't talk. Like, Uncle Ed made this. Like, I couldn't talk. It was like, and
Yeah. Yeah, I know the same thing. I had my mom, she came to visit with my stepdad. Like I said, my dad passed away, but she came to visit with my stepdad. And she actually brought my baby book. Like how parents, they will put together a baby book, like when it's like a photo album, certificates, birth certificates, everything. And I remember seeing it as a kid, but then I opened it, and in the first half of the section was a handwritten letter from my late father that I'd never noticed before. And it was him just laying out life, about his love for God, and that he is so happy that I'm in his life. And it almost feels like he just wrote it to me. And he wrote this 40 years ago. And I was the same way, Andy.
yeah.
I my mom saw me, I was just sitting there staring at it. I just had tears welling up, and she knew exactly what I was looking at.
Yep.
Same thing.
And that's it. So when you see something like that, that's profound. That's like, that's all this meaning. Like, it'd be one thing if you had a personal relationship with Chadwick Boseman, but you didn't. It's like, so now it's like, are we just supposed to cry because someone died? And it's like, and we do this thing. It's like, you're the bad guy if you don't have, it's like the thing is going around, like with Kramer, like wearing the ribbon from the Seinfeld episode. If you don't proselytize yourself in the proper way for this, like, you're terrible. And this is the issue, that like we're not teaching kids what's important. That's what's so important about Steve's show here, is that like there has to be somebody that says to these young men, you know what, toughen up and get the job done, like Chadwick Boseman did. He shut up, didn't talk about his illness, and just did his job and got his movies done. That's what a man does. Jeff's story with his grandfather, like that's what you do. It's like you got to get the job done, whatever it takes to get the job done. That's what you do. And what do we see? It's like this environment, like, take the easy way out. If it's hard, like, don't do it. There's a there was a tweet the other day about, like, people divorcing so quickly and stuff like that. It's like, marriage shouldn't be forever if it's not fun anymore. Like, I took those vows. Fun wasn't in it, you know, um, you know, and it's not easy. It's don't have the easiest relationship, but there's things that, like, that you have to be an example with. Remember one time when my son was I always got a lot of mouth on her and stuff like that, and she doesn't know when to leave things alone, and she always has this need to win. So my son was like 8 years old, and she's picking at him, and he turns around and he smacks her on the butt, and like, not like maliciously, just kind of like annoyed. And so I grabbed him by the front of the shirt and I pushed him up against the counter, and I said, if you ever lay your hand on my wife again, I'll break it. And later on, she's like, did you have to say that? I said, yes. He's got to understand that as a man, you cannot do this. This is a line you cannot cross. That you're going to be bigger and you're going to be stronger. And if you don't know how to control your strength, you will hurt someone. And those are the lessons that young men have to learn. Those are the things that young men have to know, as much as they might not want to admit it, that like a man is going to be stronger than a woman. The women, like, I had this girl show up for class one time, and like, in style of martial arts that I do is like, it's much more about leverage and spiraling and things like that are going to help you to overcome a larger, more powerful opponent. I said, this might be a good fit for you because a woman can't be as strong as a man. And she's, hey, argue with biology. Like, I'm 5'10". Guess what? I'm not going to be 6 foot. I'm not going to pretend I'm 6 foot. If I go up against, I did it. My brother Ed, he was 6'1" and anywhere between 225 to 245 pounds. And we would spar on a regular basis. And when you get hit by somebody that powerful, you know it. And, we beat the crap out of each other many, many times, like, just trying to make each other better. But you have to teach these kids there's going to be pain in life. You have to persevere through it. You've got to, expect it. And you have no right to expect an easy life. That's stupid. That's like, it's not going to happen. It's like, and you have to be willing to do the hard work. And I think the worst thing that you can do is to get exactly what you want. I mean, it's
Instant
probably the best thing.
gratification is not good.
Yeah. The best thing you can do is to struggle and to suffer for things and to not achieve it.
Yep.
To put in all this work and not, but you know what? It will prepare you for something else. Now, myself, like, I look back at my life and I see it didn't make any sense to me at first. Everything was going wrong and stuff like that. But now when I look backward, God was preparing a nice straight row in my life. All of these little coincidences that happened to fall in there just at the right place to prepare me for something else. And I don't know what that purpose is. I've had people that I teach. I had this young man that I teach that said he used to think about harming himself, and since he'd been training with me, he no longer felt that way. That might be my purpose of what I was here for. Mm-hmm. And that kid may go on to help somebody else that could change the world. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
Andy, would you recommend, if there's any young viewers or people like in high school or college age right now that maybe suffered from the untimely loss of a parent or necessarily didn't have a strong father figure or any father figure growing up, I know I would highly, highly recommend finding a reputable martial arts training facility in your area and learn a martial arts, whether it's jiu-jitsu, Krav Maga. I don't know which, I don't recall off the top of my head the discipline that you teach. I think it was multiple, correct?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. It's like it doesn't necessarily have to be that. Like, I firmly believe that every man should know how to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. Because sooner or later, and it might be the area that I've lived in all my life, that like, I'm right outside of Philadelphia, so and like 10 minutes away from Camden, New Jersey, which is one of the most dangerous cities in the world. It's, well, in the country anyway. Every man should know how to defend themselves, because like at some point you're going to have to protect somebody else. And you'll want to know, was I prepared to protect this person? Or did I drop the ball, and the reason that they got hurt is because I wasn't able to do something? Yeah. It's one thing to do that out of ignorance, but then once you're aware of it, every man should be able to protect your family. Fire a handgun and operate a handgun well. Do these things that you would need to protect your family. Changing the batteries in your smoke detector, having a plan in case the house does catch on fire. These are things that every man should know. And if there's somebody out there that you don't have someone in your life that can show you these things, the first thing you have to do is ask yourself, what kind of man do you want to be? Because like we see with the Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, Kreese was not a good mentor. With the Cobra Kai series, you see, he thought he was doing what he had to do to toughen this kid up for life because his life had been so bad. But not necessarily the right way to do it. But you have to know what it is that you're looking for in order to do that. And so finding a good mentor is huge. There are a lot of bad martial arts instructors, just like there are good ones. This is the problem with it. It's like, um, it all depends. It greatly depends on your ability to connect with someone too. It's more about the relationship you develop with someone than it is necessarily, the style of something you're doing. But I believe that part of being a man is being capable of showing your kids or showing any young men, because at the end of the day, masculine men you're more than just fathers to your own kids. You're out there to be an example to anybody else you come across. I can't imagine anything worse than being, oh, that's poor Billy's dad. Oh, he's like, he drinks too much. He doesn't work. He's like, he's been in jail over and over again. And I can't imagine how rough that would be on a kid to know that there are other kids that can be proud of their dads, and here's the one I got. So you have to be an example out there to not just your kids, but the other kids out there. Like, this is what you do and this is why you do it. So when Kevin Smith gets up there, he's got no balance. He's got no balance about all right, here's me emotional and crying. Kevin, where's the pictures of you being strong and and stoic and getting the job done? So what do? You type snarky comments back to the people on Twitter. I got your attention, haha. That's not being a man. That's being a little bitch.
He's
It's like,
become a teenage
I have a
girl.
question for the panel.
Yeah.
And I think that this is something I brought up in several conversations with friends and family. It's just that, who in society do young men have to look up to nowadays? There's no film heroes. Like when I grew up, there was Arnold and John McClane, Bruce Willis in Die Hard, and Sly Stallone as Rocky. There was several great heroes in films and movies that you could look to their character traits portrayed in those films, and the adversity that they had to overcome, their character arc in those classic films. There isn't that anymore for these modern films. They're just trash. For TV shows, what do you have to look forward to besides random gay couples kissing on the WB or the CW or whatever?
I know.
It's just, you got coaches, martial arts instructors or mentors, and you don't even have teachers anymore as mentors. In most cases, they can't mentor kids, because the second that they try to instruct a young man and give them advice, like fatherly advice or wisdom on how to be an actual man, they'll be demonized and probably fired if it's a public school. So
That's a really good question, and you're pretty spot on. I would say the only, if we had to choose an actor or someone in the Hollywood, which I don't really tend to lean towards as a good father figure, they're just as close as a good example as you're going to get growing up, and we don't get that much anymore. I would say Stallone is probably the only one. Anytime I see,
not the actors even necessarily themselves, because we
right,
used to not know anything about the actors pretty much, and that was much better. But just actual films where they portray a character, a male character, in a heroic fashion, in that sense. So that's just what I clarify that.
I would say that Stallone's characters he portrays, like Rocky, Rambo, those two specifically, it's he. I don't know if he does this intentionally, but every time I see his movies, I am always excited because I can't wait for the Sunday sermon that he's going to pull out of thin air. And he's done that in a lot of, ever since Rocky Balboa, he's always done a monologue of some sort of inspiration for guys. And the best one is the one that he tells his son in Rocky Balboa. When life gets, you're gonna get your ass knocked down to the ground. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's gonna happen. It's how you get up and go. He's the only one that I see that actually really puts effort into what it is to be a man. And it's not because he his personal life or any of that stuff. He values telling a story and a character that has meaning. And a lot of his stuff that he does, he really puts effort into it. Rambo, the last Rambo movie is up there as one of my favorites because you see he was never really a dad, but he was I think he plays an uncle or something. I forget, like an uncle or grandfather. I want to say uncle.
I think it
And
was an uncle.
yeah, you see his niece. Spoiler, if you haven't seen it, she doesn't live, and you see instantly the father look that he gives, that he lost everything, and that she meant so much to him, and he lost everything, and you see that it's to me, I've seen it in my dad, where you just it's a look of just almost like I failed, and it's I need to do something, or it's I've lost everything. It's a look that you don't really want to see your dad give. And it's a look that I don't think any guy ever wants to give because it shows just the deep dark side of what it is to be a man. You've just been knocked down to the ground. So how are you going to get up? How are you going to pick yourself up and just take on the world? And I think Stallone really does a really good job of portraying that in every character. He does something. He brings it in any character he does, he brings that to that. And so I think it's really relatable. And I think that's why he's such a lovable guy and why he still's doing movies at 76 years old is that he can still do these things because it's it's people want to see what he does.
Mhm.
Well, there's a this is where good movies and things like that and they become classics is why they're so important. And it's not a coincidence that so much of the early movie making was um, created and done by the Jewish people because part of the whole Jewish faith is that it's the passing of stories and the passing and telling the stories and the narratives over and over again to the next generations. It's so vital. And it's not a coincidence that all the comic books that we had were created by like basically two Jewish guys in New York City, because the stories are so important to the culture at large. And this is what you need is you need to have if there's a void and you see guys like Kevin Smith, they grew up without these things. You grew up with like I mean I don't know his situation, but like we there's been this thing going on where they tell you that like what people value are like it's probably best summed up with the things that Jordan Peterson talks about. And if anybody's going to be a father, go by 12 Rules for Life. Read it, and it's all about being competent. And here's a guy who's just watching a clip of him on Piers Morgan, and whereas Olivia Wilde calls him, the king of the incels, and he gets very emotional about it because he's like he brings up a great point. You're diminishing these young men, and you're mocking them, and you're deriding them. There's no one building them up. There's everyone out there pointing out the flaws that men have and things like that, and how it's men and they're toxic and all this stuff like that. Nobody talks about like it's like this world we live in. Men built this world. Men carved the world out of savagery. And now you got women that now that the job's done, they're like, now step aside. I want to show you how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that's the case, if women do such a great job at it, and I'm not beating up on women, it takes the combination of it. There's a reason it takes a combination of men and women to make a child,
Right.
or a man and a woman, not men and a woman. It's like there's like that combination is necessary.
Mhm.
Because if it wasn't, why is the majority of men in prison the product of single parent mother only homes? If mothers did such a great job, at putting these things in there.
Yeah.
And now, like, we see this stuff where, like, women, I mean, you turn on YouTube and things, you see all these, like, women destroying things and fighting and stuff like that in public. And it's like, there's no striving for civility anymore. There's no striving to be a civilized, competent human being. And
No
that's
matter
what
how hard you try, you can't have a child with two uteruses. It just doesn't
yeah,
work.
Yep.
exactly. And
Yeah.
and Steve, don't bring up the butt baby again. But
What
this is
color
the
were
thing.
you
It's
want
like
it in?
you
Oh,
have
I
to.
thought I brought that up originally.
You did.
I saw Steve retweet it the other day. But
Oh
this
yeah.
is the thing. It's just you have to say to yourself, like, when trouble comes to the door, who's going to be there to meet it? Or are you going to be the kind of guy who hides behind, your wife, like, and take her, not me? Is that what it's going to be? um, or are you going to be the guy like that's your job as a man to stand in that breach, to be that barrier of defense? And that's what's lacking, and that's where, like, when they put people like Kevin Smith up on a pedestal, like, look, it's fine to be emotional, um, as long as it's sincere and it's not overdone. Um, there's going to be, like, when I turned around to my daughter with that picture and my throat was like closed off and I couldn't talk. Yeah, it was me trying to fight back and trying to hold um this image up as her father, that, like, of how tough I was. It didn't work. But she came down and hugged me and I just became a blubbering mess. But she knew how much my brother, her godfather, meant to me, and she totally understood. And certain circumstances, losing a parent, like Jeff Story losing his twin sons. I mean, I can't imagine. And this is like, I never understood, like, what abortion, it's not a big deal until my son was born. And I remember staring at his little teeny tiny fingernails. Like, they're they're miniature tiny fingernails. It's like an actual person. It's like, that's when I understood. That's when I understood what this was. It's and anybody that's lost people in their lives. There's a Kenny Chesney song of, it's basically about, like, people who've lost people and that who've passed on. It's like, I wonder who you'd be today.
Is
And
that
I
Don't
remember,
Blink?
I'm not sure, it might be,
I think it's
but it's
Don't
like,
Blink. Yeah.
yeah, but I remember, like, I had this conversation with my son the other night, like, and we were sitting there. It's like, I looked at my kids. I couldn't wait to find out who they were going to become, get to know them and talk with them and see what and individual thoughts and, like, and that's the song. It's like, I wonder who you'd be today. And every single child that's conceived has those potential stories. And that's somebody you could get to meet and know, and that will mean more to you than you can imagine. And people are throwing this away like it's meaningless. And that's they don't know what they're robbing themselves of, because they've got their priorities all screwed up. They're in it for a dopamine hit. There's all these feminists out there that are telling women, "Oh, you'll be so happy if you live like the worst kind of men, the worst kind of men that just go from girl to girl and, like, and just kind of, like, have, like, frivolous, casual sex, and, like, and there's no repercussions from this." The loneliest people I know live that lifestyle. The most unhappy people I know live that lifestyle.
We're gonna have
It's not reward.
we're gonna have a generation of women now as they're slowly entering their late 30s and 40s, where they're you can just tell, like I said, like you were saying, Andy, they're going to be absolutely miserable, hate filled because they don't have a family. They're passing the point of realistically being a catch for most men, because as unfortunate as it is and maybe unfair as it is, as men get older, their dating pool gets bigger. As women get older, their dating pool gets smaller. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Whether good
Steve
or bad,
brought up
fair or not
something
fair.
earlier. Steve brought
We
something
will in
earlier.
Utah until there is nothing left.
I'm from a family of all boys. My daughter was the first girl on my side of the family born in 88 years. I had no idea what to do with a girl, and you know, both my kids are very much like me. In fact, like after my daughter was born, one of my wife's friends asked her if you gonna have any more. She's like, no. I got. What else can I have? I got one of each. She said, I don't know, maybe one that looked like you. um, but so I got this boy that I teach. He's 26 now. Like I started teaching him. He was 11 years old, and about like 4 years ago, I think my daughter was like 16, and I said to him like, "Can you explain something to me? I'm confused here. Like, you know, because when I look at my daughter, she's a gymnast. She's got a great personality. She's bubbly. She's funny. She's on the honor roll. She's in band and stuff like that. Does all these things, and nobody's asking her out. And this young man says to me, "Yeah, but things are a lot different nowadays than they were when you were young." I said, "When you were young, if you asked a girl out, she might say no, and you'd be embarrassed for a little bit, like, but that was it. Nowadays, if you ask a girl out and she says no, within minutes, it's all over social media, and everybody in the school's laughing at you because you got shot down, and that it's too intimidating and it's too risky to to put yourself out there and ask." And I see my son, like, and he's here's a kid who's like, he doesn't want any part of hookup culture. He doesn't want any part of girls that are that are promiscuous and living this kind of lifestyle and things. I was just talking with one of my best friends tonight. His son is 17, and I've known him since he was 3 years old. So he just started seeing this girl, and his father says something to him. He's like, "Well, don't worry, Dad. I already had to talk with her." He's like, "What talk's that?" And he said, I said to her, I laid down the rules. I said, "Look, number one, we're not the whole sex thing. We're taking that off the table. I have no interest in doing that until I'm married. And that there's the whole thing with STDs and pregnancy and stuff like that. That that's I got other. Do you believe in God? And a couple other questions he had for her. But here's this 17-year-old kid that went down the checklist, and he's using his father as an example about look, these are the rules I live by, and this is how I'm going to do it. That was so refreshing to me. And I think that young men like this, and like my son are going to be, and my daughter for that matter too, are going to be, they're turning away from this lifestyle. They inherently know that it's not satisfying, it's not fulfilling, and they look at their friends that do these things, and they see how unhappy they are and how miserable they are. I think we're on the verge of turning a corner, but they don't know where to go. They see all these things and they are reluctant to go towards religion because there's been so many examples of bad religious people. they're reluctant to, like, society is telling them, like, society's telling them that, like, that you know, what a proper man's supposed to be. Meanwhile, you know, you see what happens with this. It's like it's being that guy who's being the simp for the girl. That's not what a woman wants. That's not, like, I tell young men this, like, if that girl will know within 10 seconds whether or not she's into you or not.
Absolutely.
You can kiss her ass from now till doomsday, and she's not going to be into you. It's not going to happen. And if she does, it's either out of pity or convenience at the time. Either way, it's not a favorable outlook. And these are all the kinds of things that, like, that we all just knew. We all knew these things. Jordan Peterson's, like, putting it out there and, like, explaining it in better ways than I can.
And somehow it's controversial, saying common sense and traditional values and what stood the test of time and works for generation upon generation. I don't mean to cut you off, Andy. We have a couple members of the panel that they are in different time zones, and we need to say goodbye to them real quick. But Andy, I just thank you so much, and I speak on behalf of several comments in the chat that thank you as well for sharing, such great stories about your life and your family's life, and such wisdom going forward for young men. It's very important, and I think you made an excellent point, and I hope to God that is the case, and I genuinely hope it is, and I see that with my nieces and my eldest nephew, that this next generation are seeing there is nothing good coming out of these meaningless relationships and hookup culture, and that the only thing good comes from courting a woman, developing a relationship and a friendship long term, and building that foundation to have a family together and build a life together. So I just want to hand over to JRC. I know you need to get going. If you want to plug your channel, your Twitter real quick.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, it was great. Listen, this is a great discussion and stuff. I think this is important what all men need to hear and everything. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm I'm on the East Coast with Andy as well. So but I do have to be up in actually 4 hours. So, but
yeah, we don't want
that's
to keep
okay.
you
I'm
going if you gotta go. The
Yeah.
one thing I
I'll
want to kind of just real quick with the show is if anybody has to go or you're pressed for time or you're tired, please interject, say something. We don't want to make you feel like you're forced to stay. Anytime you want to duck out, you may do so. You can interrupt us real quick. It's fine. We appreciate you being here.
Sure thing.
Yeah, or
No
say
problem.
goodbye in the chat and bounce out. I mean, it's not nobody's gonna take it personal.
No problem. But anyway, yeah, I'll definitely say. But yes, JRC99US on Twitter and even here on YouTube. I've been on here on YouTube actually since 2007, but probably nobody knew that. But I think this is a great discussion. Everybody, we need to have a discussion like this. And I think it'll be definitely good. And can I make a suggestion? Can we? Dan Crane, boy, he's been saying some really good stuff in the live
he
chat.
really has.
Yeah, and Dan, great on you. Maybe we should get him on the show too, because I think he needs to deliver some wisdom.
Yeah, I was gonna say this, Dan Crane. If you want to connect, you can find me on Twitter at Rancor Steve, and then just DM me. We can have a conversation and see where that goes. I would love to talk more about you. I've been quite a lot because of what you've been saying and just reading what everyone's saying in the chat. Everyone is just. I didn't know how this was going to go. I'm glad I didn't do the main topic tonight. I didn't know how this was going to go. I was like, man, we're going to talk about movies. But dude, we turned this around into something about father figures. And this was, every episode is going to be, and I've noticed every episode is going to be different with different people on the panel. So I'm really glad. I think that, we'll just go down the line. If JRC, if you have to jet out right now, you're more than welcome to leave. Thank you for stopping by. I know you have a very crazy schedule and everything.
Yeah, I do. Well, like I said, I wasn't supposed to be here, but I'm
Yeah.
thankful that I am, and we were talking about
Thanks for
thankful.
joining
So,
us, JRC.
anyway, guys, you guys have a good night, and I should be good for the next show. So,
All right,
All right,
cool.
get some sleep,
Great.
JRC.
Alrighty.
We'll see you when
Yeah.
we see you.
okay, I'll get to.
You have a good night, buddy, and have a happy
All right, guys.
Stay
Thanksgiving.
tuned
Be
to
safe with
those
your
of you still
family.
with us. Stay
Thanks.
tuned.
Good night.
Me and JRC we're gonna watch. We're gonna do a live watch of Field of Dreams together on Twitch sometime soon.
Ooh,
Sounds
that's
good.
cool.
Jeff,
Lost-
Lost Wanderer, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I appreciate it, and we know you're on the East Coast as well.
Well, I greatly appreciate it. I had a blast this evening. I hope I brought some good information and entertainment for you guys
Oh, yeah.
tonight.
Oh, definitely. And the same advice. You can duck out anytime if you got to go, you got to do something, you got to sleep. If you want to jump in and say something. The number one thing that I know Rancor and I can agree on is the panel members are to be respected, as are the viewers. So if we want to make sure if you're here and you want to speak on something, we need to make sure you're heard. So anytime you want to interject, we can respectfully yield, or we can kind of wrap up our little thoughts and just kind of let you have at it. Anybody can do that at any time. You guys are guests. Again, you're to be respected. The viewers are to be respected. I personally thank you for coming on the show, and I know Steve does too. So you have a good night, and I'll let you say whatever you'd like to say.
Yeah, plug in your YouTube, whatever you want to plug in,
Well,
man.
I greatly appreciate it. No, I was getting my feelings tonight, so as hopefully come back on more episodes, I will definitely be more involved and more engaged. I'm mainly a podcaster. I'm part of a podcast network over at klrnradio.com. About half the podcast shows are politics. The others are a hodgepodge of different subjects. I actually have 3 podcasts over there about varying subjects. So go visit the website, see if there's anything that guys might like. And once again, thank you for having me on tonight. I enjoyed this honestly more than I thought I would. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very
So anything you want to plug in, just do me a favor. Just send me a message. Send whatever you want me to plug. So anytime you're on the show, I can either put it on the show, I can drop it in the chat. Just that way we can kind of help you out as well and see if people, because a lot of these viewers, from my understanding, is our show, other shows, they like the different content. So feel free to do so. You're more than welcome to. Again, you're a guest. So we'll do that. I'll get you set up. I'll probably get some graphics put up too next time you're on the show with those, and we'll get that taken care of.
Well, thanks again. Like I said, this was definitely a new experience for me, and I'm looking forward to doing more.
Yeah, I hope we see you again.
And Andy, is there anything you want to plug in?
Just apologize for being so long-winded.
Oh, you're all good, dude. I'm glad that you popped in, dude.
No, we appreciate
It's love
it.
seeing your beautiful bastard face.
Some of these things, like I've
It's a
been-
long wind
I-
full of wisdom, Andy.
Yeah.
I've been watching these things for so long unfold, and seeing where things are headed, and watching people. I've known too many people that have destroyed their lives with bad decisions, and at first there's anger, and then there's compassion, but ultimately it's a waste. It's like, and I think that we've damaged at least 2 generations of citizens in this country, and anything that we can do to repair it, I believe wholeheartedly in. When Steve told me this idea, what he had with this show, I honestly believe that there's nothing more important than what he's doing with this. It's because there's people out there that are rudderless. They don't have a direction, and if you don't have to be, a movie star or a hero to be a good positive role model. You'll find somebody in your life that can do these things. Just look at what they're putting out there. And remember, if there's only one thing I can say, there is no shortcut. And Takumi, you kind of brought this up. It's like whether it's in your relationships or your work ethic is going to be the most important. If you're not willing to work at it, don't expect reward for it. And that's what these young people need to hear, and that's what they need to understand. And that's why Steve's show here is so important. Yeah, it's fun. It's like, there's a lot of, there's laughs to be had and things like that, but ultimately it's the messaging about like he's not putting a message out there to be a man, to be a macho man and push people around to be all like, it's to be a competent model for everyone around you that needs to see this.
Yeah, I think you should be an example for young men, for your neighbors, for other people in the community, and a healthy contributing member of society when when needed in all aspects, whether it be political, coaching, if your kids are in youth sports and being responsible, whether participating in your child's education if you decide to homeschool, which I think seems to be the best bet now. But
Yeah.
I will say this in regards to work ethic and seeking instant gratification, and when it comes to dating and this hookup culture, you could go on a date, meet a girl on Tinder, hook up, have sex on the first date. It's going to feel great at first. It's going to feel great while you're doing it. But a week or two later, when you start peeing toothpaste, you're going to question your decision-making skills. Versus if you take the time to court a woman and see, I know how Andy said it's like how many people take a sip of that open bottle of Coca-Cola on the table that's just been sitting there. And to see if this is a woman that's worth pursuing, that's worth putting effort into, and worth pursuing a lifelong commitment to build a family and raise children together, because that's where the real rewards will come from. And there'll be good times and there'll be bad times, but it's one of those things where the more you put into something, whether it's your work, your personal life, your hobbies or professions, your dreams, your goals, your workouts, anything, the more you're going to get out of it.
Like I tell people, I got friends of mine that I've, been around for a long time, and they're younger than me. And I'll tell them that I'll never tell them what to do. And everything that I will tell them, I've learned by making those mistakes firsthand. So everything that I talk about, like, there's a reason I'm saying it, because I've done it the other way and I've screwed up immensely. I've landed on my face so many times. You know what? That was not the best idea. If I can spare anybody else some of that pain, then we're good. But props to Steve and the GOAT for putting this together, because you guys you're doing a true service to actually making YouTube important instead of just entertaining. Entertaining, but important and entertaining.
I want to say one last thing is that where else are you going to find a show where such a wide variety of topics and some serious topics are discussed, where such as the loss of a parent, the untimely loss of a parent, a sibling, a child, and how to overcome that, how to deal with it, overcome that. And then in the same show, discuss whether or not our grandparents ever had conversations about gag reflex during Thanksgiving dinner, or why in the hell did Disney Marvel think it was a good idea to turn a strong male character, an iconic character such as Black Panther, into the stereotypical deadbeat dad? So it's a wide variety of subjects, hopefully a little bit of everything. We try to keep it serious at times, but mix in enough lightheartedness and fun so that it's enjoyable and not too much of a downer.
Yeah. Well,
And I think that we did a good job of that.
yeah. The GOAT, is there anything you want to plug in or say, last minute thing?
Not really. I'm just kind of letting you guys have the reins. I mean, the
Yeah.
discussions are overly important. Like, I didn't expect it to go on this long, but everything being said is worth it.
This every episode I've noticed, there's only been 3 now. There's something different. Each person that has been on the panel now has brought something different, and it's something very meaningful. I never thought this show would get to this point this quickly. And the fact that tonight we can be this open where guys can just be vulnerable and talk about their life and their parents and everything. It means a lot to me. I know this has taught me a lot about how to be a man, and just hearing what Andy has to say, what Talcum, what everyone has to say, it's there's something meaningful for every single person. And I know that new people, it can be a little bit interesting to go from talking about movies and other shows on live streams and then coming to this one. It can be a little daunting. I get it, but it's we're all family. It's we understand that, we come from different backgrounds and we have different experiences, but we all have something in common, and that's how to be a man, and how to be good men towards people. And I know that sounded really cheesy, but it's true. We have different point of views, but it's all in the same. It all comes in at the same. So I appreciate everyone on here. The GOAT producing, Andy, Talcum, JRC, Jeff, everyone who's been on the past few episodes, Gary, Canadian Spider-Man, Tony Stark, Orville Nation, and you guys really do. This is the show that it's because of you guys, and I thank you guys very much. And we aren't going to have an episode next week because it's on Thanksgiving. And this show's already fighting against the NFL Thursday night football, and I don't want to fight against Thanksgiving. So in any future episodes, if this lands pretty close to or on any holiday, I'm not going to have an episode.
I'd rather be respectful of the viewers and the panel members myself. I agree with that.
Yeah, I want to keep holidays for family, and Thanksgiving is very much a time where everyone can come together. You guys can have your own political fights during dinner time or lunchtime or whatever you want, but we will be back December 1st with new segments and possibly new panels, even with the same everyone. So we will be back with new things, and I hope to see you guys there. So thank you guys very much for being on the show, and thank you for everyone in the chat. You guys are awesome. I love you all, every single one of you guys. Thank you very much.
I think it's important that we take time this Thanksgiving to be thankful for every have, and also I think in recent years, Christopher Columbus hasn't got enough credit and been celebrated enough for his humanitarian efforts to bring culture to the New World. So keep that in mind when you're feasting on Thanksgiving. I think it's important to remember that.
You want to know why your show is doing as good as it is?
Why?
Because we're respecting everybody. We've got great panel members. We're not being a-holes to them. We're not using them. We're not using the viewers. We're actually interacting with the panel. We're interacting with the people in the chat. And even on Twitter, we're responding to people. We're being humble about it. We're not being like those YouTube channels where they just step all over everybody and they try to ride the success of others, or some of these people that come on here pretty big, to my understanding around here. It's like, yeah, that's great. It really is. But they're not tools. They're people. So being respectful of them, their time, ensuring everybody gets a chance to talk. That's what I like about this show. I've seen other shows where people are just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. I don't look too happy about it. But on here, people can interject. Behind the scenes, the viewers will probably find out eventually, so I'll tell them now. Behind the scenes, I always, every now and then, make sure if I feel someone's not getting time, they have the chance to do so. That's why there's a success. We've got the combination of everything. The shows can't happen, period, if we don't have somebody on the show, even if it's just me and you, if it's with the panel members, nothing can happen without panel members and viewers. So any success we have, even this very humble start, is because of both viewers and panel members. That's why we are where we are currently. So thank you very much, Rancor.
You're welcome. Well, you guys have a
Bye,
good
everybody.
you guys have a good Thanksgiving. Drive safe holidays. Eat a lot of turkey. Watch some football. Make fun of, I don't know, just do whatever you'd love to do.
And
You
a
guys have a
little
good day.
piece of advice for anybody that's watching and even panel members. It's going to be the holidays. If you're going to be late somewhere a few minutes, don't rush. Be late. It's better to be safe and eventually get to where you're going, and maybe somebody's unhappy. That's much better than you potentially having a crash, a serious accident, or being killed. Take your time. You will get there when you get there, not any sooner. Drive safe, be safe, enjoy your turkey, your meals, and your time with whoever means anything to you.
Mm-hmm. All right, you guys have a
That's on
good
point.
night.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, good night, Andy. Talcum, would you like to say anything? Or Andy, would you like to say anything? Or are you guys good?
Let's wrap it up. And
You got it, gentlemen. All right, any closers?
I think we're good.
All right, well,
just a reminder, we won't be on next week. Everybody have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. We'll be back on Thursday, December 1st, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And I think, we welcome the chat and any panelists that we have that week to share your favorite Pearl Harbor stories so that we can keep things lighthearted on the show.
And that we close out.
Yes, we shall. All right, everybody, have a good night. Again, stay safe. Enjoy your holidays. Thank you for coming to the show.